be honest, it's quite gross. It's like a little fly graveyard. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma, and today we're going to be talking about something that quite a few of you have requested that I talk about, and that is the good old houseplant pest, fungus gnats. So when you first get into plants, you're like, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful green thing in my house. I give it carbon dioxide and it gives me oxygen, and we're gonna have a great relationship and I'm gonna take care of it and it's gonna be great. Yes, all about it, for sure. And then you get pests, because something that goes along with plants are bugs, because bugs like plants and plants like bugs. Sometimes they don't like bugs. And so fungus gnats are one of the bugs that plants don't like. And they're actually quite harmful to plants, and they're annoying to humans. Like, I don't want a bunch of bugs flying around my house all the time, getting up in my face. I don't like that. And so it's just better if we get rid of them. Fungus gnats are one of the most common houseplant pests. So they kind of look like fruit flies, similar size, but they aren't fruit flies. Where fruit flies like to eat fruit and rotting fruit, fungus gnats prefer wet plant soil and the fungus that grows within it. And so they are quite different. But they're equally annoying, they equally fly about your house, so they're also attracted to carbon dioxide, and so that's why they like to fly up in your face when you're dealing with your plants, and so they can be quite annoying. Mostly you'll notice them, if they're not flying around your house a little bit, they are in the top soil of your plant, and if you brush the plant kind of like this, you'll see them start flying off of it because you're irritating their environment, and so they'll leave it. But they'll come back and they'll lay more eggs and you'll get more flies. The adults are mostly a nuisance for us as humans. The larvae are what really cause a problem for your plants, because they like to feed on the little tiny hairs on your roots and basically cause the plant to have a slow, long death. You'll usually see yellowing leaves if it's a really big problem, or death, plant death, and we don't want that. They can also, if your plant is really vulnerable, like very young, they can tunnel into the base of stems and cuttings. So gross, that freaks me out, and kill your plant even faster, which sounds so gross. Ugh. Burrowing bugs? No. Like, most bugs, yes, cool, fine. If you don't annoy me, I won't annoy you, cool. But when there's like a mass of bugs in one spot, swarming, just grosses me out so much. We're gonna get rid of you. We're gonna get rid of you real fast. So the life cycle of fungus gnats is probably about 3 to 4 weeks in total. Let's start out with the adults. Adults live about 1 week. During that week, their main goal is to lay as many eggs as they can. And fungus gnats can lay up to like 300 eggs, which is insane. That's so many eggs. And could you imagine having one, and then boom, a week later, you've got 300. See, that's why we need to get rid of this problem quickly, because they lay so many eggs. So they look for moist soil in order to lay their eggs in. They like it moist because that's the right habitat for their larvae. The eggs stay in the soil for about 4 to 6 days or so, and then the larvae emerge. And the larvae is where there's the most problems, because they're just gonna be munching on your plant's little fine root hairs, and that's where we have an issue. The larvae do that for like 2 weeks or so. Sometimes you see them in the soil. When my fungus gnat issue was really bad, you would see them in the top of the soil, and I don't like it, because I know it's a problem, and so I don't want to see those. And so they're these like really tiny, about 1/4 of an inch, 5 centimeters or so, worm, maggot looking thing. Not what I want to see in my ideally healthy houseplants. And then they go into the pupal stage, and that's where the pupae just kind of still live in the soil, doing their thing. That lasts about 3 to 4 days, and then they emerge from the soil after those 3 or 4 days, and there we've got it, young adult fungus gnats. And then the cycle repeats, we have more egg laying, and it gets out of hand. And because the life cycle, the whole cycle from egg to adult is so short, there can be multiple generations within a single potted plant because they just keep going and going and going. And so that's the reason why a lot of the treatments that you do to deal with fungus gnats, you need to do multiple times to slowly kill each of the generations moving forward. Otherwise, you kill one generation and there's still eggs in the soil or there's still adults, then it doesn't work. So you really have to tackle everything at once in order to ideally get rid of it completely. So before I take you on my journey with my fungus gnats, I would like to say please give me a thumbs up if you like this video and you find it helpful, and leave a comment down below on other houseplant things you'd like me to talk about next, and subscribe for more videos. So this is my experience with dealing with my fungus gnats that I have hopefully gotten rid of. First off, any product that I talk about will be linked below in the description. I got most of them off of Amazon, and super simple. Good old Amazon Prime 2-day shipping. I could deal with my problem quite quickly. They worked for me, and maybe they'll work for you. In order to deal with my problem, I had to go about it from pretty much all directions. I wanted to kill the adults to stop them from laying eggs. I wanted to kill the larvae to stop them from growing into adults and laying eggs. And I wanted to try and get rid of the fungus that the larvae feed on. So first, let's talk about killing the adults. One thing you can do without any supplies, but it probably won't get you very far, the good old smashing method. You see a fly going around? Got it. Killed it. They're not that hard to catch, but you probably wouldn't do that for like 300 of them. So, not the most effective solution to my plant. So, I decided to get yellow sticky traps. And yellow sticky traps are these bright yellow cards that have a layer of stickiness on both sides. They basically kill adults by being sticky. The fungus gnats are attracted to the yellow of the card, or they don't know that it's there. They fly to it, they get stuck in the stickiness and can't get out. Basically, they don't get to eat, so they die, which is ideal. We want them to die. I feel like such a bad person, but you know, my sanity is more important than theirs. So, sorry fungus gnats, but you had to go. So mine came with little green twisty ties that you could use to hang them up throughout your house. And you want to have them vertically because fungus gnats that are just flying around will be attracted to it and go to it, get stuck, and die. Cool. And you also want to use them horizontally. So I like to rest mine on the edge of pots. So that deals with the ones that are kind of coming in to the pot area, or when they finally become adults and they jump out of the soil, get stuck on the trap, and die, which is great. So I put a bunch of those around, mostly on specific plants, but the thing is, sticky traps won't solve your problem because it's not going to catch all of the gnats, and even if it does catch all of them, it might not catch all of them before they lay eggs somewhere else. So the sticky traps are best to be mostly used to monitor the problem. The next thing I wanted to do is kill the larvae, because if I kill the larvae, they won't grow into adults. Half of the problem solved. So in order to do this, I decided to use a hydrogen peroxide solution. So I wanted to try this because I heard that it basically kills the larvae on contact. So I got some of this 3% hydrogen peroxide solution, and it's really important that it's 3%. You want to make sure that it's not got any extra chemicals or anything else added to it either, just pure food grade 3% hydrogen peroxide. So basically what you do is you wait for the top layer of soil to be dry, and then you mix up your hydrogen peroxide solution, 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 4 parts water. I poured it over my plants and I let them all fizz up, drain out, and then cross my fingers and hope that all the larvae were dead. So after I used the hydrogen peroxide, I sprayed them all with a neem oil solution. So neem oil is a natural insecticide. So it kills a bunch of different household insects that you don't want, like fungus gnats, mealybugs, spider mites, a scale, I think a couple more as well. I'll put a list up here of what they are. But it's basically super helpful for houseplant owners to have, because then you can use it for pretty much all houseplant pest related issues. So basically neem oil messes with the bug's brains and hormones and makes them stop eating, and so they basically don't eat, starve, and die. It also acts as somewhat of a pest repellent as well, and it builds up residue over time on your plants that keeps the bugs away, and so it's good to use it regularly even if you haven't got pests as a preventative measure. It's also good because it only targets, somehow, the bad bugs that are eating your plants and not the good bugs that you would want to have in your home. So also it's really important, I should say this, that you are supposed to test neem oil out on your plants first by dousing a couple leaves on your plant and monitoring them for a couple of days to make sure that it's not killing the leaves. I personally didn't do this, and I sprayed it on all of my plants and none of them had any issues, but you should test first, just like dyeing your hair or whatever. It's best to test, and so don't do this if you haven't done a test, or do it like I did and not, but do it at your own risk if you don't test. So I made my neem oil spray myself. So the recipe that I used called for 1.5 teaspoons of the neem oil concentrate, 1 teaspoon of plain mild liquid soap, and a liter of warm water. The warm water is important because it kind of melts the neem oil a little bit. Basically mix that all together, put it in a spray bottle, and make sure you shake it up before use to get the neem oil evenly distributed throughout. And one thing is, neem oil stinks. It does not smell good. The first time I smelt it, got a bit gaggy. It was quite gross. So if you're really sensitive to bad smells, it's probably not the right thing for you, or get somebody else to make it for you. The good thing is that the smell subsides once the oil dries on your plant, so it'll only smell for like max a day. It's never really a long-standing issue. So you pretty much want to start using the neem oil as soon as you see the pests or bugs or fungus gnats in your plants, because it's not gonna be an instant fix. It's not gonna kill them right away. It takes some time, and so you do need to be persistent about using it, but not so persistent that you're doing it every day. Probably about once a week should be fine. But like I said, it depends on your case. But in my case, so I did the hydrogen peroxide soak thing, and then I sprayed all of them with neem oil in order to try and repel the fungus gnats from my plants. That didn't totally work. I waited a couple of days, and obviously that wasn't really working, so I had to do something else. So I bought some Ceylon Cinnamon because I read that cinnamon is a natural fungicide and it would kill the fungus that the fungus gnats eat. And so if I could stop the food source, then hopefully I could stop the gnats. So I put the cinnamon all over the top layer of soil. You kind of sprinkle it until you have a visible layer. And I also put it up into the holes at the bottom of my drainage pots because I noticed that the fungus gnats were also going in and out of the bottom. Something was wrong. I was definitely over watering my plants or something, but it was too moist, and so the fungus gnats were everywhere, so I put them cinnamon in the bottom as well to try and get them from as many ways as possible. So after I did the cinnamon thing, so I was trying to think about why it was these specific plants, because I noticed that the gnats were coming to the same plants over and over and not a lot of the other ones. And I think I figured it out. Pretty sure it's because my soil that I was using to repot my plants was contaminated. I think maybe it's always had the fungus that was an issue, or fungus gnats got into it somehow and laid a bunch of eggs. But anyways, we're not going to use that soil anymore. I've binned it now. But so I figured I had to order stuff to make new soil, because I figured why not make my own and repot all of the plants that were having issues. And in that, take all the soil that they had, bin it, throw it away. Not trying to recycle that because it's compromised. But yeah, so I repotted those plants. I made sure that when I was doing it, I got rid of as much of the soil as possible, get as much off the roots as possible. I even washed the roots and made sure to spray neem oil all over it. But since I repotted them, I haven't really noticed any fungus gnats around anymore. I've even gone through and been a bit paranoid and started tapping pots like I would previously to see if they would fly about, and I haven't seen any, which is amazing. Hopefully the problem has subsided and I know how to solve it in the future. It's possible that they come back in the future on a new plant that I bring in. I'm gonna try and be a lot more careful. If I bring in a new plant, I think I'm gonna try and do a hydrogen peroxide soak before I bring it into the house permanently to kill any larvae that are in the soil. And I'm gonna keep using my neem oil periodically to make sure that hopefully they don't come back. And so that's my plan for the future. But yeah, so that's how I solved my fungus gnat issue. So all the remedies that I just talked about I found from smallfootprintfamily.com and getbusygardening.com. So if you want more information than I've given you, head over there. I've linked them below to find out more, I guess. If you found that helpful, please give me a thumbs up down below and leave a comment about other things you'd like me to talk about next. And subscribe for more videos, and I will see you next time. Bye!